So almost 2 years into the pandemic, and there is still so much to learn about this virus and how it continues to impact on life as we know it. And when we need the answers, of course, we turn to science, where there's a lot of research ongoing, even as I speak with you right now. We're joined on the program this evening by Dr. Bamidele Iwalokun, who is the Director, Central Research Laboratory at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, NIMA. The laboratory also houses a central sequencing unit of the institute, where COVID-19 positive samples are currently being sequenced to detect SARS-CoV-2 variants circulating in the country, and of course timely reporting to the NCDC. He joins us live in our Lagos studio. Well, Dr. Iwalokun, it's great to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'd like to start off on the conversation around diabetes.
Okay.
Clearly, the mix of diabetes and COVID-19 is turning out to be fatal. Figures we've seen from the WHO says that the case fatality ratio when it comes to patients with diabetes is over 10%, and that's compared to just over 2% with normal patients. Is there anything that science has told us, something that can help us at least reduce that fatal trend?
Thank you very much for that question. What science has told us is that in diabetic patients, immunity to the virus is lowered compared to those that are not diabetics. And what are these forms of immunity? When we talk about the natural infection that can provide immunity, it doesn't provide the right amount of immunity for a diabetic patient. The components of this immunity, we talk about the antibodies to the virus, we talk about the T cells, and there are two types. The one that is called the CD4, that helps the B cells to make the antibodies, not adequate in diabetic patients, and that makes them to be more vulnerable. And and that makes them to be immunosuppressive or immunocompromised. So that is the reason why the risk is high in them.
So essentially, people with diabetes need to pay more attention to their health as it concerns COVID-19.
Yes, because they don't have the right level of immunity to confront it.
Well, the World Diabetes Day may have come and gone, but clearly a lot to learn. But let's talk about COVID-19 squarely now. And I know there were talks about strain, variants, and the rest, but I recall that earlier this year, there was a certain conversation from the NCDC that Nigeria was monitoring about 55 lineages of COVID-19, and that shocked a lot of people. Now, that was as far back as February.
Yeah.
I know you're into a lot of research about this lineages, what you're doing about it. Can you tell us where we are right now, how we got to that point, and what the implication is?
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, we have about 55 lineages of these variants at some point, but I must tell you that it is the mutations in the genomic architecture of the virus that bring about these variants. And some of them are not fit, and some of them are fit. In terms of what I meant is that mutation brings about fitness of some variants, and it also makes some variants to be unfit. So for this surge we are having, the third wave, for instance, we have three major determinants out of the 55 lineages: the UK variants, the Delta variants, and the Nigerian variants, which is the ETA. These are the three major determinants of our third wave. So, but it's still very important for us to be monitoring these variants through sequencing. At least we know the types that are circulating. But the types that are causing symptoms, hospitalizing Nigerians, these are the three major variants.
So the fact that we have 55 lineages doesn't mean that they are essentially responsible for the cases we're seeing. Just three of them are responsible.
No, when we pick a variant, it is responsible for a case. But, a case could also be asymptomatic. In fact, 80% are asymptomatic. But over time, it's still important that we monitor them to see the extent to which mutation is also occurring in those variants. But in terms of majority of cases, we are having the UK, the Delta, and the ETA. So occasionally, you do have new variants even coming in, maybe one case, and over time it disappears. So what I'm saying in essence is that not all the 55 lineages are available at the same time. As they come, some go, but those that have stayed up to now are those three variants.
Right, so that's the UK, the Delta and the Nigeria
the Eta variant.
So a lot of talk about vaccination. In fact, we started off with that on the program tonight. And I'd like to get your scientific opinion, because, I mean, this is still evolving, as it were. But from what we know so far, so we have a vaccination drive currently ongoing, which is essentially meant to give Nigerians immunity against COVID-19. But there's also another conversation around people who have been infected before now, and they have a certain level of immunity. In fact, some research talking about the T cells and the rest. So what is the difference between the the vaccine immunity and the infection recovery immunity? I don't know if that's what it's called.
The first one, which is the infection-associated immunity, is unpredictable. It varies from individuals to individuals, and it wanes over time. Is not durable. That is what science has given us. The one that is more predictable is the immunity we get from vaccine. But, you know, there is a synergistic effect between the two types of immunity. So for a person that is infected and vaccinated, that person is more protective than not infected and vaccinated. And the one that is worse is not infected, not vaccinated. So we have three major categories of people now. Those that have natural infection unknowingly, and they have built some levels of antibodies against the virus. And they are not vaccinated. Those that are naturally infected and vaccinated, in fact, they have taken their 2 doses. And those that are not infected and not vaccinated, those category of people, they have greater risk of coming down with
So 3
COVID-19.
categories. But I also recall that now there's a talk about third shot. So essentially, those who have even gotten the vaccine, as it were, it looks like the immunity is waning, because, I mean, research has said that over a couple of months, they will need to get a booster shot. I think that has also been in the conversation. So is that something we're working on in Nigeria as we wind down? We have a few seconds to wind down on this one.
Now, just like my boss said earlier the other time, we should not be talking about getting a booster dose now when we don't even know the number of Nigerians that have these natural infections. So we need to intensify our serosurveillance to know those that have this natural immunity, and the advantage that would confer on getting the first dose and extending the duration to take the second dose in order to have more Nigerians vaccinated.
Well, Dr. Bamidele, this is a conversation I'd love for us to, stretch, but we have to go now. Okay. I'm hoping we'll do this sometime soon. Dr. Bamidele Iwalokun, the Director, Central Research Laboratory at NIMR. Thank you so much for your thoughts on the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll go to break now. And when we return, we'll tell you what's happening outside the country, from Europe to some other areas where they are currently combating the virus. To join us again.